because I always like to get Man United out of the way because it's often depressing, if I'm being honest with you. But there's talk that we could be, because of Sir Jim Ratcliffe buying us or buying 25% of us, if we finish below the league position that Nice finish, and at the moment they're second in the league, Man United will be banned from the Champions League and Europa League next year should we to qualify. I mean, I'm just annoyed that how have we let someone buy into the club if it means we're going to be banned from European competition? It's crazy to me. I don't know what you will make of this.
What do you mean? I'm sorry. Like, how does that work? What does that have to do? Can you?
So essentially, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is the owner of Nice.
Yes.
And you under UEFA regulations, you cannot have two teams in the same competition that are owned by the same people. So the way it works is the team that finishes highest in their league is the one who gets the preference. So say Nice comes second, Man United to get in the Champions League would need to win the Premier League.
All right. So that will apply to Girona and Man City as well. If Man City don't win the league and Girona win the league in Spain, Man City will not play in the Champions League as well. That's kind of crazy, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I've looked at the ownership of them as a Spanish club, and it is different owners. It's connected, but it's different owners where, but I haven't seen it for them. But I mean, do you guys think that's fair, that that's a rule? Or do you think that's detrimental?
Well,
what are we saying?
I think it's fair because ultimately, you don't want a situation where you've got an owner in control of two clubs, and you've got to protect the competition. And if the two teams were to face each other, you don't want any sort of situation where you know what I mean. You want to lose this game, mate, because we want the other team to proceed. So it's right that it is a rule. Whether or not it will apply to Man United, I'm pretty sure these guys are not stupid, right? I'm pretty sure they know what's, they're going to have this sort of sorted, just like City do. So I would be surprised if United actually got banned from the competition. I don't think that's going to happen, but I just don't think it's going to happen because I don't think this guy's going to buy 25% of Man United, spend all that money, and then not know about this rule. But the rule is correct. The rule is correct, Terry. I mean, it has to, you understand why it's there. It's to protect the competition. But I don't think United will get banned. I'm pretty sure they'll find a way to make this.
You've obviously, I agree. Like the way I saw this article headlined and written today was UEFA sources confirm that if he gets 25%, they have to finish above Nice or they'll be banned. And then I'm sitting there and thinking, well, I know that they structure it the way they structure it, but this could happen to City in the case Mo brought up. I've definitely seen both of the RB clubs in the Champions League at the same time. It would just be how you word the structuring and the ownership. You know how like a lot of local businesses, you think the owner is, but it's his cousin brother that's the owner on paper for one reason or another. I'm sure they'll do something along those lines.
Terry,
Sorry?
I think it's fear-mongering. I think they do these things to just potentially stop people from having multi-club ownership of one individual party. They're just trying to maybe slow down people from doing what Todd Bowley and his group have done with Strasbourg, for example. They don't want too many people having too many ownership of certain clubs. Maybe that's what they want. But I don't think anything's going to happen to you. I personally think if this is written in writing, like officially, you can't have an owner have two clubs in the same competition.
It is a rule, but this is how I think they'll work around it. I agree with Lewis. So my view would be Ineos Limited, I'm making these names up here, own Nice. But then a subsidiary of Ineos Incorporated, which is a different company, becomes a 25% owner of Man United. Now, it'd be a little bit more complex than that, but in reality, that is two different entities and two different businesses. For instance, I own 3 companies, even though they're all connected in one way, shape, or form, but by law, all 3 of them are different businesses. That's all they've got to do to get around this. It'll be a little bit more complex, but yeah, I agree with you. I agree with Lewis as well. I think it has to be a rule. But the way this article I saw written today, I felt the same, just kind of scaremongering. There's always problems at Man United. And can you imagine spending £1.3 billion buying into a club and then seeing it banned from the Champions League because of that purchase? I'm not saying Man United's owners are the greatest, but are they that dumb? Really? I don't know.
But Terry, I'm looking at the timing of this
more
news.
dodgy. Like the way I looking at it from the outside in, this way is more dodgy because you're going to have owners more deliberately trying to control. So let's say they own a English club, a Spanish club, and a Italian club, and then the English club is third, the Italian club's second, and the Spanish club's fourth, but they want the English club in the Champions League because it's going to get the most money, etc. That is going to cause more issues because then they'll start. There's the potential they start trying to tank with another team, and try and affect that team, which is going to affect league positions more so than anything. So I get why the rules there, but as we enter into a new phase of football where multi-club ownership is becoming a more and more increasing thing, that rule is going to be amended to, and it's going to be a very interesting way to see how they deal with it. Because, like you said, there's no way Sergio Ratcliffe's going to spend that much money and be told, no, you can't play in the Champions League because you own two clubs. And even if it's not going to affect us this year because you're not going to get Champions League, but what's it going to mean for people like
That's exactly what I wanted to say. Why Man United is worried about the Champions League this year? Next year, worry about it.
And I don't get why it should affect you if you're in the Europa. Let's say you finished in the Europa League, would you be allowed in the Europa League, or is that not allowed?
The article says, the article I read says Champions League and Europa. So
yeah. So it says,
League, here we go.
I've got it here, Terry. That's what it says. It says, obviously, because if one team goes into the Champions League and one into the Europa League, then the Champions League could drop in. It says the only way they don't even have to do anything is if one qualifies for the Champions League and the other qualifies for the Conference League, because then they can't meet. It also says if they both qualify for the Champions League, then Ineos, I would imagine, will have to speak to the club financial control body of UEFA, who open proceedings against the clubs. And then it's up to the clubs to prove to UEFA that there is no sort of clash or there's nothing. So it seems a bit messy, but listen.
But my only issue with it is, again, and maybe it is because of the way your ownership and what's the name of the Spanish club you own?
Girona.
I nearly said Granola. Girona.
You're hungry.
I just haven't seen articles saying the same thing. Maybe there have been, and I've missed them as an example, but. Yeah, it's one of those things.
That's because, Terry, they was never ever in the conversation for qualifying for European competition. I mean, I think
might
there was
be in La Liga.
Well, this is the thing. I think there was in like the second division a few years ago, which is like last year they finished 10th. The year before that they got relegated. So it's a bit of a madness. So I think everyone is a little bit shocked and surprised that Girona are currently top of the league. Which
it's
is
about the owners.
Why didn't they write this article about Man City?
Like the owners of Man City are very smart. They wouldn't do that. Look at how they're running Manchester City, cooking the books and doing all the stuff that is happening behind the scenes.
Excuse me. Alleged.
They won't be able.
Allegedly.
Sorry. Allegedly cooking the book. So they won't be able. Like, I think they wouldn't fall for it. Like, I think Man City owners are smart enough to actually have different ownership of both clubs.
Well, but I'm saying,
if you're able to do all of this and get the club where it is now. Like, come on, they're not gonna fall for this. Like,
but Mo, don't you think the international break's boring? Why didn't they write this article about Man City? They did it about Manchester United because really and truly, they didn't have much else to talk about during the transfer window. Similar to how they brought up the Tottenham thing with the Jermaine Defoe and all the stuff with Chelsea and stuff. They're just bored and they don't have transfers to talk about. So they're trying to find as many other scandals that they can talk about to make it fun.
I think let's establish something. Sergio Ratcliffe is not an idiot, right? He's a billionaire. They're not going to just register both clubs under his name. It's not going to say Sergio Ratcliffe.
Yeah.
Like, he's not an idiot. Come on. They know the rules. They read the books. They know everything that is happening. RB Leipzig and RB Salzburg has been in the Champions League every year, probably for the last 3-4 years, and they haven't been hit with anything. I think Man United shouldn't be worried about it. But again, I don't think he's going to spend, as Terry said, that much money and then risk not being in the Champions League or the Europa League. That would be stupid, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree. On the football regarding Man United, I do want to ask a question to the panel. What to do about the problem of Mason Mount? There's talks coming out that there's frustrations that I know he had a little injury, but he's been stop-start. And there's a lot of feeling amongst Man United fans around what's the plan for this player. You spent 55 million on him. He's starting most games on the bench. Is this somebody now that Man United fans should be expecting to see a plan for, and for him to get some regular game time in weeks to come? Because you spend 55 million on him, you expect there to be a plan, not someone like McTominay starting week in, week out, who you tried to sell in the summer. Kate, can you understand why Man United fans are feeling really frustrated about this deal, and the player himself is somewhat confused about his lack of game time?
Yeah, of course. Tottenham fans feel it about Richarlison. We pay 60 million for him, or 50 million plus add-ons, and he's useless. But from what I've seen in Mason Mount at Man United, it just doesn't fit in. It just looks like it just doesn't fit into the team at all. He was a standout player for me at Chelsea. I still can't believe they sold him. I know why they did, but I still can't believe they sold him. But yeah, I mean, if I was a Man United fan, I'd be pulling my hair out, quite literally, because I just don't see him working under this manager. But what do you do? Do you like put your hands up and say we made a mistake and sell him on? Do you persist with him? You can't just leave him sat on the bench when you've spent that much money on him.
Well, this is Ten Hag's fault again, isn't it? You know what I mean? Like, it all comes down to Ten Hag, man. Like, that's just a fact. It is. He's bought this guy, and he's not working. That's his fault. He bought Anthony. He's not working. His fault. He's fallen out with Sancho. He's fallen out with Ronaldo. He's fallen out with Varane. Yet people are just like, I feel like some United fans are just so oblivious to what's actually, when you actually just deep it, that is horrendous. He's only been there 18 months. He's fallen out with half the squad. He signed a lot of players that don't work and spent best part of 400, 500 million on a lot of players. You know, even the good ones are like in the 30s. You know what I mean? I think that this, again, to me, I like Mount. I think he's a decent player. They overpaid for him, yeah, and they don't know where to play him. And that's Ten Hag's fault. So I can't, if I was a United fan, I would not be blaming Mount. My anger and frustration would be at Ten Hag.
Bro, he's spitting. I think, Terry, it's going to be a situation where you're not only going to be looking at Mason Mount, you're going to be looking at a whole overhaul for your team. Just after a year where you thought you could push on and challenge, it might be a situation where you're going to be looking at a whole new rebuild and to try to get actual players that can play to the style that you want. Or it's going to be a situation where the manager is going to go and you're going to have a new person coming in to reevaluate which players are going to stay and which players are going to go. I don't think you're going to have a decision on Mason Mount this season. I think you're going to have a decision on the direction the club's going in a totality before you have a decision just on Mason Mount.
What is Mason Mount? Why was he bought for? Like, what's the reason? Now, like, I keep asking myself, are you going to play counter-attacking football, position-based football? Where does Mason Mount fit? Why would you spend that much money on him? I actually echo what LB said. Mason Mount is not a bad player, but he just bought for a bad team that doesn't suit him. And I don't know, like, Man United fans are upset with Mason Mount. Like, the guy's not even playing. Like, you be upset with Anthony, who is playing and not performing. Mason Mount isn't even playing to be performing good or bad. Like, when he plays and perform bad, you get to be upset with him. Why are people? I see a lot of people upset with Mason Mount. I'm like, why are you upset with Mason Mount? The guy didn't do anything bad.
Man United fans have a habit of doing this. We know he isn't good enough, or we know he isn't playing well enough, but we always focus on that. And I agree with LB. The manager has picked these players. Firstly, I don't think managers should have carte blanche over picking who comes in. Doesn't happen at Liverpool. Doesn't happen at City. And I know that because Pep's come out and said it himself, that when he's thanked the people that have found him players and scouted them and helped bring them into the football club. Of course, he has a say in it, but you need that structure. But the manager has made, Amrabat's also out the team at the moment. He's fallen out with Varane. Maguire and McTominay are starting. He was trying to sell them both in the summer. This is a managerial issue. With that element of it is now how he's been in that position, given that much power, is a different conversation. But I agree, there are a lot of Man United fans who are burying their head in the sand when it comes to the situation with Erik ten Hag, and Mason Mount is almost symbolic of that. You spend 55 million on him, and every time he's played in numerous positions, there doesn't seem to be a fixed idea for what you want him to do, and it's a mess. And I feel a little bit sorry for the player because he's coming with a lot of pressure because his final season at Chelsea was poor. There was the contract issues. So you've got a whole fan base of Chelsea baying for his blood anyway. He then comes in with no fixed situation. There's multiple other problems going on, and it's a mess. And I think ahead of our game against Everton this weekend, Everton have got the fine. Sorry, the points deduction. They feel the whole world's against them. We're an absolute mess. It feels to me, and this is just as a United fan, typical that when all this happens, we have to get I'd actually rather go to Anfield this weekend than Goodison Park. That's how I feel right. Maybe not. They beat us 7-0 last year. But I'd rather go away to most grounds in the country than Goodison Park this weekend because it's going to be absolutely horrible. But I agree with you, LB. Like, I see a lot of people tweeting about it today, attacking the player. And I think to myself, it's not Mason Mount's fault. He's been bought and put into a situation where there's no plan for him. He's got a specific skill set that we're not trying to utilize. And by the way, we're doing that with a number of players in our team. And we have done at Man United for a decade. We're always playing people in the wrong positions. And it's why so many of them leave and look exponentially better elsewhere. It's annoying for me. And yeah, on the Everton game, a lot of people in the comments are asking me how I think it's going to go.
You're dropping
Thank
points.
God it isn't part of golden goals this week. Because if it's part of golden goals, I'd have to be putting it against my team. I think we'll lose 2-1 at Goodison Park this weekend. I really do think so. I'm glad I haven't got to put that into my golden goal predictions because I don't like predicting Man United to lose, but I think we will this weekend. And I think we'll not get battered scoreline wise because they're not that good, Everton, but I think they'll batter us in terms of play. I really do.
They're going to be
Couple,
so
yeah.
galvanized, Terry. It's going to be the worst place to go to for now until the end of the year, probably, because of how the fans are just going to be getting behind the team. And I'm just happy my team's already gone to Everton away. We don't have to worry about that anymore because everyone who plays Everton this season, especially away, that Everton fan base is going to be backing them 110%.
You're going to get bullied off that at Goodison Park. You're going to get absolutely bullied off it. They bully you at the best of times anyway, even if, you know, this whole situation had happened because they've just got players who want it more than you. The United squad just seems in disarray. I understand that United fans want to see Mason Mount start, but the one player you can't exactly drop is Scott McTominay because if you drop Scott McTominay, who is your goal scorer? You've got no one. You actually have to play him, so you're gonna have to figure out a spot for Mount there. If it was me, I'd be playing him on the right wing or moving Fernandes out to the right wing because you cannot keep persisting with Anthony out there. When it comes to Everton, Onana, Doucouré, Idrissa Gana Gueye, Calvert-Lewin, Beto, all these Tarkovsky, Branthwaite, all them players are going to physically bully your players because they want it more because they've got that bee in their bonnet that it's everyone against Everton. That will just set them off. That'll set the fans off, and your team crumbles at the best of times. And Goodison can get very hostile very quickly if they have a good enough start in that game. That could turn real bad real quick for United because your players, they just don't have that mentality this season. And
Tom just
I
said
agree.
that if you don't play Scott McTominay, who's your goal scorer? Manchester United 2023.
Well, mate, this is the thing. I've seen a few people in the comments, and I respect them all. They're my viewers. I love them to bits. I'm not siding with rivals against my club. I'm speaking the truth as I see it. And look, I'm excited about the potential of the new ownership regime improving us in the medium term. I am. But I don't believe this manager is going to be able to do it. I think he's lost too many players in the dressing room. And one story over the international break that maybe makes sense is there's talks that he's worked them too hard in training, too many drills, too many runs, too much fitness work, and the players feel exhausted. And there is a fine balance between being super fit and being exhausted. Now look at how we've been playing this year and the lack of energy and effort. And maybe that's it. Look, that could be an excuse from these players. It absolutely could be. But there's got to be a reason why the players of last year were fighting their backsides off for him, and suddenly they look like they couldn't care less. And it isn't like anything's been reported to have happened in the summer that's made everybody fall. I got it with Jose because you had Martial in summer of 2018, Martial going off to the birth of his child and Jose slagging him off for it. You had the World Cup that summer and Jose was in TV studio slagging off Paul Pogba. I understood why the squad was frustrated with him. But yeah, it's going to be a mad one for me. But viewers, let me know.